Okay.
Yeah, man. That was a logistical battle that I wasn't ready for.
We'll talk a little bit about that actually, because it's actually quite interesting. All right, cool. How are you all? You good? Yeah. Welcome to CDR here in Sheffield. My name is Tony Wachiku. I head up CDR, have done for quite a while. For those of you who don't know CDR is a project that started way back in 2002. Pretty much it was like an extension of some of my experiences with the music industry and wanting to have a platform where you could be with like-minded people who are also working on music, who also want to compare reverb tails and snare compression techniques, etc. It's been going a while. Some really good people have kind of come through, and it gives me great pleasure to bring CDR to Sheffield and have people like Metrist in the place. Give it up. And for the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to delve into a little bit about him as an artist and producer, and his approach to music production and quite uniquely sound design. How are you, sir? Are you good?
I'm doing. I feel a bit dishevelled as I spoke to you. We actually sat like a seat away on the train on the way
Exactly.
down.
And we had no idea.
We never met before, but I needed that alone time. If I was honest, we couldn't have chatted because
you just needed your thing.
I think I'm on like the 5th day of a hangover, so like, it just keeps rolling on.
Yeah, and also just we had a bit of a technical mare just now, but we're all fine now.
So so this is Skype.
Yeah,
so we're
exactly.
Skyping. I'm screen sharing from my screen to Adam's, and instead of going out the HDMI. So it's a little bit
Adam,
delayed.
Everyone, and Yellow Arch people, soldiers. It's great. So before we delve into a track, and talk a little bit about your process. I mean, what got you into sound? What got you into
I don't know actually. It's quite a tough question. I hadn't really thought about it too much before today. I mean, the thing that I keep coming back to is such a cliche, but I was given a tape by my cousin, which was a One Nation. It was like a drum and bass party in the late 90s. I had that tape. I was always musical. My mum's a music teacher, so it was always like I always had like all of her musical friends being like, "Oh, when are you going to learn an instrument?" and all of that. And I think I'm still disappointing her to this day, because when I say the computer, it's not as valid as like the oboe to her.
Exactly. Just tell her you can see grade 8 on the scale.
Yeah, I tried to do all of that. Like I was a guitarist, and then I realized one day I met this. I was like 15. I met this kid that was like 11 and just shredded. And it was just amazing, and it depressed me so much. I basically just that was it for me. So I was already making music at that time. I think it was kind of like quite arrogant 15-year-old kid. Where if I know I'm not going to be the best at it, then so and then I started making beats as a kind of way of like I grew up like in like suburbia, not too in the city, but it's kind of in the city, but like with Cambridge, which is where I grew up. It's not such a happening place, so I had a
quite acoustic guitar business over there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, basically you had like the people that were older were it's a big drum and bass community. The people that were older were comics and Newtone Logistics, and we'd see them about a lot, and they were like our mates. It's such a small place that we'd be like, well, if they can do it, then so can we. We being like a friend of mine who I don't know, he's a name for the heads, but he's a guy called Divided, who released on a label called Project 13, and we both did this whole thing together. He taught me how to DJ, I taught him how to make music, and then he went off and made better music than I. He's kind of like he's now changing the world as like he's at the RCA doing like invention or something. But this isn't about him, like that was meant to be as more of a joke, but bring him out. But
as it happens,
this is your life. Tough crowd, but so yeah. Anyway, drum and bass, One Nation. I had a bit of a name drop here, but I was doing the same gig as Darren Debridge the other day, and I kind of like chatted to him about it and chatted to him about the 9. And as soon as I brought up the 9, which is the Bad Company track, that famous Bad Company track, I saw him just like his eyes roll. It's like he's got so many like kids my age, or like not even kids, like I'm 25, but like people my age just being like, man, the 9 was so important to me. And I think it wasn't like begrudging, it wasn't like fuck off, you know, we got the same agent, like he can't say that, but he totally could. But yeah, he just heard it a lot, and that tape got into that electronic music. I was about 11 and that kind of started it. And then when I realized I wasn't the best guitarist in the world, so just went on to doing this. Started on Fruity Loops, Demo, Reason, Logic 9, and then I just switched to Logic 10, which if anyone is thinking about doing Logic 9 to Logic 10, it was a big thing for me. This track was originally made in Logic 9, and it feels like when I went through this the other day, it's a track from my last EP. I went through it, I was like so bare bones compared to the stuff I'm doing now, but
that post Logic 9.
Yeah,
since getting into 10.
So the next EP I'm releasing on Time Dance is like way techier, way more flicks, way more like I don't know, way more texture to it. It's a bit more 3D than this. This feels like quite a 2D project, but in that way, it's quite a it's almost like I'm not throwing out all the trick, and in a club it actually sounds good for that, because there's not too much going on and it kind of just rolls on.
So was it the drum? Was it I guess because a lot of sound design and a lot of kind of really kind of finite, granular sound design techniques is very kind of synonymous with a lot of drum and bass.
Yeah.
Is that, would you say drum and bass is what drew you to the opportunity to get into sound design? I think the sound design thing came from like the course that I went to study in, and it was kind of like it's a lot more of a meritocracy in that I'm not necessarily saying it's against like DJ culture or anything, but you got to play the game a little bit with DJ, and you kind of like got to be present on social media. You don't have to, obviously, like you have people like Helen Houff who are like killing it, and she doesn't have like any of the social media platforms, but you kind of just got to be about that. And sound design is a way of just like, you get a job because you get a job. Kind of, it's not I recommend it as a career. It's quite full, like there's a lot of people doing it, and I think if you have your own slant on things, then it can only be good. If you have your own, well, I'm going to go to this guy because XYZ, then it can only help. It's kind of cool though, because I think a lot of the time people will go to say a composer for a particular sound or perspective, do you know what I mean, or a producer for a particular sound, but not that it's rare for a sound designer to have a signature and people go to someone as a sound designer, but actually, particularly in the context of dance music, in the context of drum and bass, it's actually quite unique.
Yeah, totally. I think it's a completely different kettle of fish. Like making a tune to doing the sound design. Sometimes for me, it feels like a completely different area of my brain. Doing stuff to like motion and stuff like that. With dance floor music, it's like I've made some amazing bass noises in my time. I mean, I'm not like known for that or anything, but then I've never been able to fit them into a track. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of feels like that, and that like music is so like writing dance floor music especially is such a black magic behind it. It's such a I don't know, in a different day, in a different mood, wearing a different t-shirt, you'd write a different track. It's like, whereas sound design, I'll just sit down and I'll do a job, and it's normally the first idea that gets, whereas I think with this EP with Omar, I don't know how well anyone knows Omar and how he does with feedback. We work quite closely, and that this was in the this is in like the 23rd or 24th version. Another track on the EP was on its like 30th version. It's just such a slog, and it's exactly the same with the second with this second record that I'm doing. Is like, it's just like over and over and over, but you chisel away, and I think having a label owner that I trust, that knows how to get the best out of me, is a way of making my music better than it was ever before. I think having that trust.
So before we have a quick listen, in terms of developing your ideas and developing your track, considering that you've got a bit of a penchant for sound design. How much time do you spend on the actual sound creation before you actually start applying that to actually sticking a under it or whatever?
Totally. So like, if I was to go through this track here, I've got all of these things here which I cut and then I brought them down here. So basically, I use this. Let's open it. Let's see if it crashes my computer. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. I don't know. Should we roll the dice?
Should we roll the dice?
Yeah. Flip a coin. So basically, I have all of these. Like, there are a few things I recommend down here. All these things are like £14. This is like the holy grail. So everyone used. So basically, a producer called Alvanoto. That was like his secret reverb. So it was
Glitch Lab.
Glitch Lab. Yeah, it's made by this one Italian sound designer, coder. And it takes quite a while to open, as you can see. But also, like, look at my CPU from just sitting there. Like, it's just wet. So basically, as a little MB, I don't use this laptop to make music on. I use like a studio computer, so it might chug a little bit along. We might get a few system overloads, but yeah. So I make this thing called Glitch Lab, or I make stuff on a thing called Glitch Lab. And for example, this thing sample self is when I just put my own track through. So we could listen to that if you want, just on as like raw material. Let's have a little. I hope this doesn't blow everyone's heads off. So it's pretty raw stuff.
Pretty glitchy.
Yeah. So basically, what I do with that is, I mean, if this ever opens, you basically get tracks and you just throw them in there, and then you can cut them up, and it's got a really nice time stretch. It's got like a modular system. I'm like the least techie guy. Like I'm about getting results really quick. I'm all about using a randomize button. I love presets. I like. I don't like engineering synthesizers and stuff. It's like
sound curation, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like you hear something, you think it's interesting,
yeah,
you apply it, right?
And I don't know if that like demeans my work or not in someone's eyes. I'm not really too fussed, because if I get there quickly, then it's kind of it's just how I do it. And I know people who are absolute wizards at their plugins and at their like and in the box, just absolute wizards, and it's terrifying. I give me a preset, and that I can just change a couple things about it. Okay, here we go. So this is Glitch Lab. It's pretty intuitive, but so what you can do is we got some. If I go into samples, you can see that I name some, like the stuff that I bounce out has just got some awful names. So if I put that in there, look at the state of that. Look at that. It's gonna, my computer's gonna take off. Let's see if it might just come out of my laptop here, but you gotta hook it up. I really recommend this software, honestly. Like, it's just. It's so good. Right, so there's a little beat, and that's what it sounds like on its own. And I can put a randomizer on it, hit the clock, and then so I can slow it down, time stretch it to its normal state, and then get it moving about.
That's moving a start and end point.
Yeah. So you can zoom in on it, so you can just get it like that, and it's just. I mean, this is probably the dullest beat to have done this on. So it's like, but you get like a really choppy, like something that surprises you, rather than you're kind of like, I know exactly what's going to come out of here. I'm putting vocals in. Let's just do that. Says Vox, so I'm kind of like, right. So this is like some bounces that I did ages ago. And it just goes through here, and you can just, I mean, sounds absolutely awful right but trust me, it's worth the 14 quid, like totally. And it used to be like the number one thing I'd get all my sounds from is going in there. So it was like a big secret of mine. And all of these things here, they're all like Glitch Lab bounces that I then put into like, yeah.
So the cool thing is almost like you use Glitch Lab like your lab. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that there is a lot of random stuff to it, it's almost like you're waiting for the sound to jump at you.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You know, and there's this kind of element of, kind of aspect of not being in control. Do you know what I mean? And then you can bring control in the door and in the timeline.
100%, 100%. Like I get all these banks of stuff, and I do it now, but I do it with Reactor, and I use Reactor as like I use a plugin called Catalyst to do essentially the same job as Glitch Lab. And yeah, you just get that raw stuff, and I use it in these little so basically I'll make these for shame. Right. So let's look at this one here. Get the inspector up. So then I'll make these little channel strip settings, and everything will look like that, so that I'll then like have it on quite a few. I mean, it's a bad example, but like I'll have that setting on quite a few, and then just lob all my samples in there, and then they'll all be different samples, but they'll all be treated in a similar world. So you can lob something from like a session ages ago into a session recently, and it sound like it's in the same.
So it's almost like a filter, you know, like in the visual world, it's like a filter. Do you know what I mean? It's like a filter with particular.
100%. That's like the perfect analogy. Yeah. So I normally put like quite a specific reverb in there to kind of like put it in like a really short reverb or a big one. I basically made this like I found this way of working on a track called Shit Patches. Like, I regret my track name so much, man. That's like 19. Like, so like I did it on there, and it was this big thing, and I was like, how has I done that? So I like just saved it and just kept using it and everything after that. And it gets a bit samey after a while, so I have to like tweak it. But I've never used this one in any other track other than this. So I basically just crush and compress the life out of something. It's like such bad like practice to do this, but it's not at all. I mean, I think it's I guess you're just really into just, you know, almost like basically ripping the shit out of something beyond existence. And there's one existence in Glitch Lab, and then you bring it into Logic, and then you say, okay, it's got nothing to do with Glitch Lab anymore. 100%.
It's got a world of its own.
Yeah, 100%. Sure. I do it with a lot of like I cut up a lot of music concrete as well, because it almost felt like my thing for a while. That I was like, because when I went to university, like there were a lot of, I was introduced to that world, and that world is like it's like people listening to Autechre now, and they're like, whoa, and Autechre is insane, and I absolutely love Autechre, but people are doing quite similar stuff in like the 80s. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure. Like all these guys were doing it in like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and it felt like my secret for a while. It felt like my thing, like I've got my hands on it, and you can just you don't even need to like the music, you don't even need to like the sounds, but you can use it as like an impulse. And I use it like I do Glitch Lab. And if I put it into my world of like my whatever the plugin settings, the track settings, then it feels like mine.
Yeah, of course. It is.
Yeah.
So when you're building, in fact, let's just listen. Should we listen for a bit?
Okay, come.
Yeah.
The intro kind of chugs along for a while, so I'll drop us in like with a few bars to go. But that's
sounding great.
That's the basically for the main thing in this track is like it's like a delay basically that I built with like a really choppy delay. If I could just find that, man.
Well, while you're finding it, I was going to ask a question. So in terms of you've got all these sounds, different, squash them, you manipulate them or whatever. Are you conscious of what role they're going to play in the track, or do you leave till later? Because clearly, listening to that, you've obviously thought about, obviously something has to play a kick.
Yeah.
Something has to, there's bass, there's percussion, there's obviously standard dance music layers. But are you thinking about that when you're making the sounds?
Well, like originally this track was like all of this beat was built around having this huge section at the end with like a really big bass. And it was quite bait. It was quite like, it was like really in your face. And this feels like quite stripped back for me. And I sent it to Omar and he was playing somewhere in Paris. And he was like, send me a version without that synth. And so I sent it to him and I was like, this is lame. Like it sounded so bad, but he was like, stick with it. There's something there just with just the beat, just focus on the beat. And I'm not really like that kind of person that just sticks on a beat. I get quite bored, want to change stuff. And so originally there was something completely different and the beat was just a kind of beat to hold the rest of it. But I'm just like cutting up breaks. I'm just cutting up like breaks that I like really bait breaks on this. But they kind of like here's the kind of like wonkier break that sounds a bit, it's kind of like I've cut up that, like that's a lot from what it already is, like I think I might have treated it somehow before, but like that's quite like true to its original form. And yeah, to answer your question, if I know where everything's going to be and I didn't know that the kind of delayed snares and that I'd end up putting, basically there's these snares here that all go into this delay system, right? Blah, 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 which basically carries the track. So if I solo that, that's like,
is that delay designer?
It's just delay designer. So I'm basically like, what I do now with how I make music is like, it's all reactor and it's all really techy, but like this is just essentially Logic, and this is kind of like, I don't want to like preach and be like, oh, you could do so much with just the stock plugins and all of that, but like this is essentially using mostly the stock plugins. And I think what gives this track a little bit of a feeling of it being a bit different, a bit more techy, is how much like I'm using sample delay to make things a bit wider in the ear.
And also groovy.
It's kind of, everything's a little bit off and everything's a little bit like more slung. So I mean, if you look at like my mixer, like the stuff I'm using,
your CPU's like,
oh man,
you're fighting with your CPU right about now.
It just wants to like,
he wants to fight you.
It wants me to go back to the hotel.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
But so like I use a lot of enveloper, and now what I would use instead of that is I'd use this old boy. Where's the geezer? I'd use this. This is really good. But I like, look at this, man. Like I use all these envelopers on maxed. Like they're all maxed, pulling down the transient. So it's just like, and I use that a lot, and I use it as a creative tool in as much as like I'll like close and open the sustain, which is
with automation.
Sure. So like if we look at, I don't know if I'm doing it in here, but like I automate quite a lot. I don't know how wide we can get that, but like so I automate quite a lot on like quite a few different, I automate on a lot of sends and like that kind of boring stuff. Like it's so lame to talk about, but like
that's why we're here.
So, I mean, I'm just so aware of how boring I sound. Like I'm like, I wouldn't listen to this, but I appreciate most of you for still being here. But yeah, so the automation's a big thing in what I do. So it's about morphing that sound from bar one until the end and just finding more life in it. Like
And you tend to automate in touch and then just do your thing and just feel.
I've
feel
done that
it?
more. Yeah, I've done that
Okay,
more
yeah,
now.
sure.
Yeah, I don't use like MIDI keyboards or anything for that, but I'll just like
Mouse business.
just
yeah,
mouse
sure,
business.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I'm so in the box. Like I'm so kind of like in tune to the computer now that I kind of I've tried using hardware and stuff, and it doesn't speak to me in the same way. It's just one of those things. I don't feel like I'm missing out really, even though I definitely am. But
no, you're doing your yes your way. At least you can
pissing off some bearded guy at the back of the room right now.
Make tunes in the train if you're not recovering. You know what I mean? So, all in one little space.
I find that quite difficult. Like I find making stuff on the move. I find it a bit showy as well. Do you know what I mean? You see some guy on Logic. I was actually in a cafe and I saw some guy on Logic and I was like, that's what it looks like. So I don't think I did it after that.
With his cappuccino. You know what I mean?
Come on, guy. Like, making the next big hit
exactly.
like, in this hip cafe.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Before I see if these guys want a question, I should ask you one more question. So given that this perhaps is a typical approach, I know you're using different tools now, but there isn't really a plugin to be seen. Is that your thing? Were you Mr. Audio?
Nah.
Pretty much.
Nah. Do you know what? This is a complete outlier. Like, this isn't how I make music. Just saying that again. Big prank. This isn't even mine. I paid for this. I bounced everything out because I was having serious troubles. So what now I use is I use battery for my drums or Reactor. I still do this business here. I still do a lot of that, and that's for my audio. But a lot of my projects now, they just look like that. Basically, they just look like nothing. And I've kind of like
MIDI events.
It's all MIDI. Yeah, I'm using so much MIDI now. Like the next record, it sounds like it sounds like that as well. And that's got its pitfalls, and that like I'm currently like absolutely like dying over this one Reactor synth that sounds different every single time, and it's like it's one of the modular things, but it's like a preset. And every single time it sounds different, and I'm just fighting with it. And then I'll send it to Omar, and he'll be like, "Why'd you change the synth?" I'm like, I didn't change the synth, guy.
Maybe that needs to be bounced to audio.
I tried that, man, but every single goddamn time, like, and it's honestly driving me insane. Anyway, but it's not about that. But I don't do stuff like this. This is almost like how I made music. I made this track like 2.5 years ago.
It's almost like that phase one approach, and now you're obviously a lot more using React a lot more, using MIDI events rather than discrete audio.
Oh,
elements.
100%. Yeah. Like this, this came out 3 months ago, but it was made like 2.5 years ago, and it's just how these things happen. Like just records take so long to come out. But yeah, I use a lot of. I mean, if this doesn't crash my computer, then I don't know what will. But I use this a lot. So this is really, really nifty. If it hasn't, like, right. So if we go into like, what it does is it like, I don't know if this is just me flexing, but like, so if I was to like drag a little something there and then, so this beat matches to beat matches. Yeah, I guess so. Let's go with that. It's like, and it's so nifty. Like, we'll get it to like.
So it's like a glitching.
It sounds awful in there, but like, that's what I use for a lot of my drums now. And then I'll bounce that out, and then I'll bounce that out, and then stuff like that. I couldn't recommend this more. Like this. It costs a fair whack. Like it costs 90 quid just for a Reactor ensemble. So it's kind of. But it's so worth it. Like I don't use anything more than I use this. This is just an absolute weapon. And yeah, I couldn't recommend that more. That sounds like the stuff that I'm making now. That tiny blurred thing that you didn't hear in the mix there.
Well, it's interesting. You've gone from a kind of external application to something that's a little bit more, plug-in based and actually in the door. But you apply the effect in the same way. Totally. You just want sound to be mangled, and you want it to hit you in the face. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
I used to get rinsed for using audio a lot. Like from all my drum and bass mates, they'd just be like, but they're all like, it's a different breed. Like the drum and bass lot, like they're all so techie, so switched on, so like it's a completely different world from like making music at this kind of speed, because it's more about the vibe, the chug, the groove, the kind of the little bits of color that come in and like out, and in drum and bass it's like how good can you make that snare sound. Only in some areas, like there's loads like all the Bristol guys that are doing stuff like UVB and like homemade weapons, who I know isn't Bristol, but like that kind of stuff feels like it's moved on from that. Now it feels like a progression from that, and people aren't trying to like, I don't know.
Well, it's less digital, isn't it? They're kind of, the kind of noise, when it's about kind of precision, almost like FM,
man. Yeah,
almost like really pristine sound.
Noisier for me, they got that world, like they got it down because they wrote amazing music, but like they also made it like exquisitely produced. And I think I think in my head anyway, it kind of can only be one or the other. Sometimes you can either make something so clean, or you can make something that's got like life and soul, and I find you almost forego a little bit of that when you try and make it that techie, that like you lose a little bit of that, like you put in something that's like so chromium that almost like the fingerprints they and like sometimes the fingerprints are what make this is an awful analogy, but
it's a good analogy, so it's great analogy. Right. Cool. Okay, let's see if these guys want to. I've got a question. Question over there. Of course.
Hey mate.
So how are we gonna do this? Should we? Is this cable gonna be? Maybe not. Okay, maybe shout it and then
Speak up. Yeah, that's quite a broad question, because it's like native instruments gear is essentially like my whole studio now. It's like I don't really use much else. It's like an all-in-one. It's essentially a door. Well, the door just kind of like is a way of just holding it all together, because you can use like stuff like standalone, like battery there, or like machine. I have reactor as well, but like yeah, you can use stuff in standalone. I don't know, like it can be so predictable. You can like make like, I don't know, you can make anything on this stuff. It's so powerful. I couldn't recommend Native Instruments stuff more. It's not because they've got like a gun to my head. We'll terminate the contract.
There's some great tools. I mean, Reactor's obviously a fantastic example of, almost like a Pandora's box of ensembles, both paid for.
Oh, yeah, man.
But there's a whole bunch of, there's thousands of them that are free.
If no one's seen it before, it's just absolutely like mad. Like you've got everything in here. I mean, this kind of helped because I didn't know what it looked like before, and like just to see like all of my stuff's been uploaded to the cloud. I told you I didn't use this for like it's honestly fine because like I don't use this, but basically it can't, like you get all of these like this looks like it's still here. Let's roll the dice again. So like this is just like that's just like a kick ensemble, and you can just randomize it and get like, right, I mean this could be like super boring, but let's just solo it, and then you can just like you can literally roll the dice and get like mad kicks from. I've like admittedly find this quite like a thing I struggle with this plugin, because like for all its uses, it's actually quite hard to wrangle with, because they do like all of this is quite like, it can get really muddy but it sounds so good, so you can't take it out, but like anyway. So if that answers your question. So I got lost in a wormhole.
Well, the thing about Reactor is that on one hand it's the program itself, and then the way it works is that essentially it's a scripting language. Essentially, So so it comes with So it's basically a scripting language like Max for Live. And when you first get it, it comes with about 500 ensembles that are free, and there are lots of different things. So there's ones that effects, ones that emulate analog synths, digital synths, or whatever. But actually on the website, it gets a lot more interesting because there's like hundreds of other people around the world who actually make free ensembles. So it's literally the world is your oyster. Every kind of synthesis or effects that you can imagine is available for free.
Totally. Yeah.
And also you can open most of them and see how they're made. So literally you've got, so it's literally like a shell. You can open up, okay, how did that person make this crazy plugin? And then what you can also do with the free ones that you can take components out. Okay, I like the way that glitch thing, I can take that, make it as a module. So it's so you can be as simple or as deep as you want, So it is a lot to take in, That's why I'm really curious. Like I haven't even seen that one that you showed us there.
Well, it's like
it's great.
A lot of people will say to me like it's like so techie that it's like really puts them off. But I'm like the least techie person. I'm like spamming this guy and like and I find it easy enough to like. You do? Hey. Do you want to swap? Do you want to use this?
Yeah. But the good thing is, it's almost like, I like your approach because it's almost like you separate the wheat from the chaff. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like you go, you know what? This plugin just randomizes shit.
Yeah,
so I'm just going to stick some audio in it, hit randomize. That doesn't work. That works. Amazing. That's the shit right there. Bounce it down. Next.
It sounds so like lowest common denominator, and I feel like such a fraud sitting here. Like talking about how I randomize all the time.
But the irony of that is but this is where it gets really deep, right? Because if you look at a different workflow, like if you look at the world of modular, for example.
Sure.
Okay, so people you're obviously using oscillators, effects, or whatever.
Yeah, you get lost in it.
But what people get out of it is the randomization of it. Do you know what I mean? The fact that you've got all these kind of triggers and Turing machines, all these little things are basically spitting out bleeps and boosts at you. You know what I mean? So I actually think, it's actually a reaction to, if you want to get deep on people now. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So there's
thanks for the.
That's it. but then also something that's but then also there's something actually really important about this is essentially how you curate the madness.
Do you
know what I mean? So there's something about, of course, however you approach making sound or creating sound, at some point you have to make sense of it in terms of whether the track for a dance floor or for a sound design.
I think that's totally it.
Do you know what I mean?
I think it's all. I think like like to validate myself slightly, but like in what I use is these. I think the thing that I cling most to is these settings that I apply that make like stuff like this, which I hope this doesn't like. So that's like the main like, and like I really hope it doesn't sound like the same after all this. But like so like it's kind of like pretty much the same, but like it's about like making that world around the track so that your kicks and your snares can be really simple, really boring, not even do much, but because there's so much else going around that it's all kind of tied together in this same world that kind of like makes sense. And
got lots of other subtleties going on with delay designer and lots of other things.
Yeah, the delay designer, like I used it as the A side of this record on Time Dance. I used just like a vocal sample that just went through. And if I was to like if I'm to like show you that, if I was to get that up again, I think this is the thing. So like everything's coming through here, and this even is a preset. Like I swear I'm like falling apart in front of you right now.
Yeah, we appreciate your honesty. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, do you know what? I once went to like a talk kind of like this when I was like 16, and I saw someone just lose the room by just being like, just steal someone's kicks. And I'm like, just not looking up because the glares that guy received. But like, he was also like a massive douche. So like, that's even worse. I'm like setting myself up for that one as well.
No, but you know, to big you up, do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, once again, I think that it's, you know, there are lots of people who spend, you know, 20 years trying to perfect a kick drum with a sine wave.
Yeah.
And there's a place for that, of course.
Yeah, totally.
But then there's also a place for, just like I said, taking inspiration from sound.
Yeah.
And applying it, you know, quickly and effectively, which is what you're doing.
I think where the hard work comes in for me to validate myself yet again is like doing all of this like shit up here is that's where like I'm truly creative. I don't like arranging too much. I find arranging really difficult. I find that's where like working with Omar so closely comes in that he can like be like, I played this out last night and it sounded a little, because he plays out a bit more than me, so like he'll be like, yeah, I kind of wanted it to do this at this point, so I'll be like, okay, I'll try that out, and then or I won't talk to him for like a couple of weeks, and then like and then just be like, fine. But it's normally like, if you can make it so much that the work is done before you even get there. Like on days when I don't feel like writing stuff, then I will make all these sample banks, and I'll make all of these like 2-3 minute long bleach lab bounces, reactor bounces. So the next time I go in, I could just like put a boring kick drum, but then I can have like bring in a bit of myself, and I work in templates as well. So like every time I open a new project, it's still me. It feels like me. I don't have to go too far to like find how the last track sounded, or, you know, get that world back. And like, I think so another thing that I do that I kind of like, I do this a lot, which basically like, I've got that thing solo, don't I? No. So this is like the second bit of the track. Alright, so I have that. I send that tail is massive. I do this basically with my tracks, where I just like absolutely crush them. I don't do this anymore, but like that is just absolutely rinsed in there, and it just fills the mix up.
The whole track.
The whole track, sure. Everything is in there. Like,
it's almost like tape saturation, compression, really kind of give it.
I normally just compress it, or it's parallel compression, but like you can get creative with it. You can like put a flanger on it, like go crazy, put a flanger on it. You know, so wacky, but yeah, that guy, that's got me out of a lot of trouble. This like, that's a Yuhi Satin. It's a beast. Yeah, and I've literally just maxed it out, man. I mean, like, as soon as I try and save myself, I'm like, look at this plugin that I've completely like destroyed. But you know, somehow it just comes together. Like, I got a lot of auxes here as well, just because of the CPU, because the old CPU, because like I can't run as many plugins as I used to. But I think this track, and like I could have brought a track in. Well, I couldn't because of my CPU, but like something that had like reactor and then like battery and all of that, and then I feel like it's a bit less. I feel like it would be a bit disingenuous, because then it's like, oh, look at all of the shiny toys, when it's like this track is essentially just audio that I spent 14 quid on, like that plugin. I would not get that one, and that's the most recent one. Don't buy that one because it sucks. So like, get that one, and if you want it, like, does it need a code? I think I've got the code. If you emailed me, I'll get you the code. Give me £14 and I'll send it on to my man Giorgio and make sure he gets it. But yeah, there's loads of other stuff for doing this. There's like Cecilia 5. I don't know if anyone's heard of Cecilia 5. It's like another standalone software that you can like. There's Spear as well. Do you know Spear? And it's where you can like draw like names in waveforms, and then play like, I made like a birthday video for someone, and it was just like, it was like, happy
That's
birthday.
So kind of you.
Yeah. Do you know what? It got no, like, I put it so everyone could see it. Got no traction. I was really annoyed about that. I was really annoyed.
I don't get it, man.
They don't understand.
Let's see these guys. Got another question? Question here, yeah.
Oh, totally. So like stepping up to Logic 10 was like it's so big for me. It changed everything. It's like I was saying to Tony how like it turned things 3D, whereas like Logic 9 felt so 2D and flat and fuzzy and like a bit weird. And then like, and I'm like the last kind of guy, as you've seen, I'm like the last kind of guy to be being like, ooh, it's like just a bit like 2D. But like it as soon as I started working on Logic 10, it's like just suddenly it all opened up. You can make stuff so loud as well, which is what I really like in the creative process. And before doing stuff like that, what I do is I procrastinate for like years and I put it off, which is what I did with Logic 9. I was using Logic 9 up until like maybe like February. Yeah.
That's a while.
February 2019.
That's a long contemplating period. Is it? Yeah.
Christ. Yeah. And then I got to pay another £200. So yeah. Do you know what I thought? I was like an island. I thought I was like Burial, and I was like, ooh, I'm making like this out of date software, and it's so like it's just me doing it, like whoa. And it's just not worth it. Like having the latest gear is sick. Like it does make everything sound better. It's like updating your computer all the time stops you from getting hacked by Russian Bitcoin miners, which is what I got hacked by Russian Bitcoin miners. But like I downloaded like Melodyne, the software. I downloaded like a crack of it, and then they like started using my computer. One day I was watching a film. This is off subject, but like, I was watching a film on my like studio computer, and then like the fan started being like, and then I was like, let's bring up the old activity monitor, and then I looked at it, and it was just like some Russian code at the top of using 100% of my CPU. So I was like, Googled it, and they were like, delete everything now. Like they have your photos, your passwords. So don't download Melodyne. Don't download a crack of Melodyne. That was before I had all of the Native Instruments stuff, and I was like, I need good stuff. So I was desperate, and then I ended up just like screwing myself over. So yeah, let that be a lesson to you all, to not like from me to you, because that took my computer was almost a write-off. It's still a bit of a zombie. My main studio computer. Yeah, it sucks, man. Yeah. Yeah. Don't get hacked. That's a good now I've got this guy, which is, keeps me safe at night. I can sleep easy knowing that I've got some Russian. Got your back. Yeah. You gotta hire a criminal to get a criminal. so yeah, Kaspersky. Yeah, exactly. And then I found out that it was like it's mainly for PCs, and they just ported it for Macs. And my mate is like, I feel robbed twice. Anyway, I hope they got some good Bitcoin in out of my studio computer.
Cool. Anyone else? Question here? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's psychological. I think that's like because right if I see a record, I won't instantly think like, oh, that doesn't fit on there. You have like a trust in that, like it all makes sense. It's almost like some weird, like that black magic I was talking about, how like you have so much faith in the label and the producer and stuff that you believe them, even if something. So that the fourth track off the last record I did was made on this laptop. I actually like couldn't bring that up because all of my like ensembles had been like uploaded to the cloud. I hate this like laptop, man. It's like no HDMI, no ensembles, but I don't make like I think it's just a specific amount of time spent on. So if you say like these are all tracks from like the last year, so like they're all gonna sound pretty similar unless you go off on like some like electro swing vibe on like one of the tracks. So like the mastering does like make a difference. I think having that like having that like common goal of you and the label manager means that you're never going to pick something that sounds so outlandish. I think like there were on the last record I did, there were like 3 or 4 tracks that didn't make the cut, and that's because they wouldn't have fit in that world. I think so. I think all the decisions have been made. Like I'd like to think it's all like, all right, I'm in like this EP writing mode, and I'm only gonna do like XYZ on all my tracks, which I think you do, but like, yeah, I think there's a certain kind of like trust that you have in the label that they're gonna. Yeah, so basically, like on that last record, the 4th track I think sounds so different to all the others, and because I made it on here, and because I made it with all the Reactor stuff, whereas the other stuff wasn't any Reactor, and it was made like a year and a half after all the others. But I haven't had anyone like come up to me and be like, yeah, that track does not fit. Mm. Yeah, I guess so. That's a nice way to think about it. I wish I had done it. Like to be continued. Like a big cliffhanger. A big preview as like the final track. Next time on Time Dance.
Yeah, with a Russian accent as well. So yeah.
Man, those pesky Russians, man. Not
Cool.
you know.
Yeah. It's all Anyone else? Question at the back there?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I think if we can look at it like, then it's nice having stuff that runs through the whole thing that I can like that pad. That pad is just like, that's gonna be there wherever, and I think I've just put it left and right. No, I haven't. No, I've got one that's pitch shifted up, but I know that I can come back to that after the beat. I can kind of like bring that back in and get a bit of clarity. And then what I do at first to make it, I'll make like a 16 or a 32 that is so maximal and it has everything in, and keep adding more stuff in. And then you can kind of just bleed it out over like a track. And then, for example, in this track, that didn't happen. So it's not a good example of that, because I had all of this stuff here. Which is this huge bass. I've actually got a version of that, which, you know, might surface at some time. But like, I had to go back and be like, right, what's a hook here? Like, what's a hook? Like, what's gonna make me still interested in it? And it was like basically I put like samples of, I think this is Elsa Justel. Oh, that one's called Arsehole. So I didn't even heavily vet this project. Like, so there's, yeah, Elsa Justel. She's like a music concrete, like it's just not very well known, but like makes incredible stuff. And I think that's what got basically just put that through the delay, and that's like enough for me. It kind of had that like how instantly when I made it felt like that like 2012 Bodika kind of like that dun 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 dun. It's just like simple, does a bit, like I don't have to. For me, this track is like quite a weird color, and it kind of just like, I've actually color coded. Like I was saying to Tony, this it was an absolute bomb site when I went in here, because I hadn't been in here in months. Like, why would I? But like, and I had to color code everything. And this isn't how I work. Everything is like that kind of default Logic Blue. So like, I don't color code anything. I don't keep it tight or anything like that. Anyway, I've carried on talking for a while.
Go for it.
Yeah. It happens to all of us. Yeah, no, totally. No. I think it's also almost a way of like, I had quite difficulty arranging this because it's a beat. So it's like, I normally come from drum and bass, so it's like build ups, drops, and then this is more like a beat, and it's like a beat that kind of like goes through a groove, So it's like nice to have this, and it's so simple. And I was listening back to it, it's like, oh my god, it's so basic. You can hear that when it like loops over. Obviously not now because it's not playing. But yeah, this is the pad in it, and I don't know where I got it from. Actually, no, I got it from Bleach Lab, and it would have been like another pad that I would have ripped or something like that. And just having it there made it easier for me to arrange the track. Just having it there, knowing that I can come back to something, because I was actually finding it quite difficult to. This track was like so difficult to make because it's like it's so close to being so boring, but like it's just you're just on that line where like it sounds good in a club, but then at home there's almost something techie about it, and like that kept me interested in it anyway. If that answers your question, I'm not too sure, man. Yeah. Right. Mm. Do you find that it works for you though? Nah. Yeah, I think my process every time is so different, and that's what brings me such inconsistency. Like for every track that I make that gets put out, there's like quite a few. There's like I'd say like 1 in 5 like actually gets released. Um, and you know I make other good stuff that just doesn't get out there. It's just like not quite got that thing to like push it up and get it out. So it's kind of I do so many things and I try so many different things and I don't have an exact style that it's actually quite like I'm like a bad example for doing this, but like, you know, I don't think I've made another track that looks like that, you know, it's because it's like every time I'm trying to, because otherwise I get quite bored actually. Like,
well, on that tip as well, I mean, I get the sense that you're not really, apart from your drum and bass days, I get the sense that you're not so genre specific now. You just
nah,
yeah,
not
just,
at all.
yeah.
Like on the next record, there's like I used to be because I used to be like when I first did it, it was like techno. So it's like when I'd go out and I DJ, I'd have like a 4 BPM difference from like the start to the end, and it would be like woo. But but now I'm like whoop, and like on the next record, there's like 100 BPM dancehall kind of thing. It's like just me fucking about with dancehall, like culturally appropriating the whole thing, but like doing like my it's not really dancehall, it's just like 100 BPM. And then there's like stuff I was doing at 150, and it's like I'm comfortable enough now that it all sounds like me. You know, I don't have to sound like me within a certain BPM. It's all gonna be. I'm confident that it's like it's all you, Joe. Like you're fine.
And does that come from the fact that you've got confidence from releases being well received and being able to obviously DJ and perform?
Yeah, I think
so. You can take risks in that respect.
Yeah, I think it's also like Logic 10 allowed me to do so much more than Logic 9 ever did. There's like I remember when I was first week on Logic 10, I was like, oh my, like I'm genuinely so excited to get this stuff out, just because it's like it's so much different to anything else I've ever done. Like that's why I was saying to you, like going into this project, I was like, man, it's so like it's so boring. It's not boring, but it's like it just does a job, you know. Whereas now I'm like, you know, it's like doing a lot more. Maybe boring is like a.
No, that's not the right word, is it?
Yeah.
I think So, how do you find homes for your music?
Well, at the moment, like, I used to be quite like a nomad with it. Like I was like moving around and getting friendships, and then someone being like, "We got to do a record, man." Like, for example, like, the stuff I did with Neighborhood. Like, I've been good friends with Tasha for many years, so it kind of came about. We played back to back. We played at each other's parties. We just got really friendly, and it made sense to do a record. We've had some horrible nights as well, and staying up until horrible hours, and like I've seen some horrible things. So just like might as well categorize this, yeah. So stuff like that, and then with Where To Now, it's like they're like historically a Brighton label, and I live in Brighton, and it kind of like made sense to do something there. And with Time Dance, I did the second Time Dance release as under the name Else. And it was like a secret thing. It was like a new name for me. And it's almost like it's it's almost like Euro '92. It's like the forgotten tournament. Like it's like it's like the forgotten time dance release. But I remember Omar, like, because I didn't know that time dance was, obviously I didn't like need to be persuaded that much, but I was like, I really didn't want to release those tunes. I remember Omar just ringing me up like twice a week and just being like, we got to do this, and I was like, nah, I don't know. But like, little did I know that time dance would grow into the bastion of UK dance music that it is today. So to answer your question, basically through friendships and meeting people and cracking on. Yeah, after
you considering doing your own thing at some point, do you think?
No. I think I had there was a point when I was at university where me and my friend Sam, who is Divided, who I spoke about, where we were like thinking of setting up the club night into a label, but I just didn't have the capital because I was at university. So I think it could have happened there. Like, we were working closely with an artist who goes on the name Aya now, formerly known as Loft, and you know, we were tight with her, trying to make something happen. But then, like, you need to, you know, as I'm sure a lot of people in this room know, you need to put down like money that a student doesn't like just like 1,500 quid or like £2,000 or you can get I forget, someone will know the name in this room, but like it's where you get the label to pay to distribute. Do you know what I mean? Forget what it's called, but they basically have faith in you, and you.
It's like not a consignment deal. So the other one similar. Yeah,
it's like that. Yeah. So yeah, it never really appealed to me. Seeing how Omar's aged in the last 5 years as well. It's not really. I don't feel like it's ever my job to put out someone else's music. I almost feel like I don't want to get involved in someone's process. I don't. When someone sends me feedback as well, I'm always like, yeah, it's sick. Like, yeah, I'm like the worst guy to send feedback to, because I'm just like, I'm always trying to be everyone's friend. So it's like, I think I just put out some rubbish music of some guy that I just met at the pub, just because I was too embarrassed not to put 1,500 quid behind, you know, Gary from the Boozer.
Sounds great.
So look out for that one when it comes out, because it will come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice one.
So
you're playing tonight.
Yeah.
What can we expect?
I've got a load of guest lists if anyone wants to come. Like, because I know nobody in Sheffield. Nice one, yeah. So I'm opening the room, but I was told that that George Fitzgerald is on at the same time, so it's probably like the weirdest clash I've ever been involved in. Probably a lineup I never see myself on, but it's me, Omar, and Nazira in the same room. So I'm opening it up. I've been playing a load of 100 BPM stuff at the moment, and it's been really, really fun. The most recent mix I did for Crack was kind of like a kind of extension of that, and it's like sped up drum and bass. So the drum and bass being at 85 BPM, like 170, and when you speed it up to 100 or 200, like a mad scientist, you get essentially like dancehall. But if you choose like the right, if you don't choose like the like that's bad. Yeah, speeding up the 9 to like Darren looking on disapprovingly. But yeah, so it's like a really nice little cheat code if you speed up that drum and bass. But it's got to be that.
It's like a sweet spot, you know, tempo wise, isn't it?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and because CDJs are so clever these days, the time stretching, it feels quite still. You know, I remember when it used to you'd pitch something up by like 10 BPM, and it would start to like show its like grains. But yeah, with master tempo, anything's possible. So I think I'm just starting out slow. Like when there's no one in the club as well, I like playing those like really like weird sound designy music concrete bits, and then just like, yeah, it's quite nice. Peace. And then letting the students, I say, and then they just, you know, they wash to the front.
And then the tempo goes up. That's, ramp it up.
Bring them in.
Ramp it up.
I'm like, just, I'm ready. And then bring on those students. But yeah, if anyone would want guest list, then I'm like, you must be a student. I need to see an NUS card. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, actually. First time in Sheffield ever. Yeah, and as a football fan, being in such an important footballing city, you know, I can feel it, I can smell it. The rivalry, the chip butty.
Indeed.
Yeah. So Omar, like, this is NB, but Omar messaged me, you know, half an hour ago, he was in the same lift as Jurgen Klopp. So, and he didn't get a picture. Omar is Batu, if that adds any. He's been.
I was gonna say something.
I don't know if that. Do you mean that?
I was
sarcastic.
I was gonna say something.
I wasn't trying to be cryptic. I didn't think anyone knew either. I thought it was like, it's a nice twist at the end of the. yeah, just this guy that I just. He's the guy that I paid to make this track off Fiverr. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, now we've established who we're talking about. Yeah. So are you Joe or Metrist? So that's fine. Metrist, thank you so much, man. It's amazing.
Nice one, Tony. Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers. It's been a pleasure. Man. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.